sharing each other's content, liking their posts on social media, sharing their posts on social media, right? We all need to beat that algorithm. If you do that for other people, they're going to do that for you as well.
I love bookkeeping.
Hi, everybody, and thank you for listening to the I Love Bookkeeping podcast. My name is Hannah Robinson.
And I'm Melissa Honan.
And thank you so much for tuning in. Today, we're going to be talking about our series of building relationships. And today, we're going to be diving into building relationships with tax preparers. I know some people listening are bookkeepers as well as tax preparers, but for those of you who aren't, we want to really dive into how to effectively build relationships with tax preparers. Melissa, I feel like you have a lot of expertise in this field.
I do. I have a lot of opinions, at least, but I think this is going to be a really great conversation, even for those that do offer tax preparation services. And I think that's where we should start is even if you offer tax preparation, the best thing that you can do is to not view other tax preparers as competition and find a way to collaborate.
I absolutely love that. I think that's such sage advice for basically any industry, because if I've learned anything about the bookkeeping industry, it is that there is plenty to go around for everybody. So I love that that was your first piece of advice, because I think that could be kind of like a misconception, is that there's this competitiveness, I guess, between tax preparers or bookkeepers versus tax preparers. And really it's a collaboration.
1000%. And I always say this in sales, especially is, we offer tax preparation services. Is this something that you're interested in? And if they tell me, oh, I have a tax preparer that I love, I'm going to stay with them. I say, that's awesome. I'm so happy to hear that you have somebody that you love working with. What I always like to tell people is that we play nicely with others. And so if you're happy with your tax preparer, I'll love to be your bookkeeper and I will work directly with your tax preparer to make your life easier. And 100%, that is always just a sigh of relief, right? Because I'm there to make the client's life easier. And that is not being competitive with the tax preparer. That's not fighting with the tax preparer. That's not saying, oh, I won't talk to them. You have to go through the client. No, send an email, introduce me. We can go back and forth and we don't have to involve you unless you want us to. Speaking about building relationships with tax preparers, that is going to build the relationship with your client, right? Because the last thing they want to do is be the in-between of communication for two people speaking a language they don't want to talk about.
Exactly. So I guess my first question is, if somebody is listening and they want to know, okay, how do I take that first step to build relationships with a tax preparer or with different tax preparers? What, in your eyes, is the first step?
I think it'd be easy. I'm, talking from an introvert standpoint, right? Like, and also a millennial. I hate phone calls, guys. Like, I don't want to call anybody if I don't have to. I will do it. But I think it could be as easy as an email introduction, right? If you have a client, you don't prepare taxes for that client, they have a tax preparer, letting your client know, hey, would you mind introducing me to your tax preparer? Would you mind if I reached out and introduced myself? And just having an email template that's like, hey, I'm Melissa with Bookkeeping for Painters. We have a mutual client. I just want you to know that I'm here if you have any questions. And I'd love to set a time to maybe talk and collaborate to see if maybe you have other clients that need my services. And I'll, try to make it like a referral relationship, or even just, hey, just saying, this is who I am. It's nice to meet you. Right. That's going to be miles ahead of what anybody else is going to do.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, it can just as simple as just an email. It is all it has to be. It can be more than that, but we don't have to make it complicated.
I think what you said in the beginning of this episode is kind of an overall theme for what we are talking about. And that is, it's a collaborative effort. And I think that is so great to circle back to, because when you have more of the mindset of looking for a collaboration versus kind of having this rigid I need you, I need this. I think when it's more of like a tone of collaboration and not a tone of needing somebody on an as needed basis, I really think that changes the game for taking that step to work with tax preparers and to build relationship with tax preparers.
I think so. And so one thing that I've seen in like the Facebook groups talking about is that I did see a bookkeeper that did this. And then her client received a bill for the time that the CPA spent talking to the bookkeeper. And so I think that I personally don't do that, right? Like we're value-based bookkeeping. The way that I see it is that it's making my life easier, right? To coordinate with them. But it's also, that's just a shitty thing to do. I'm not like, I can't even like,
it's like going to the doctor's office.
Yeah. So, but I also think it's a pro, right? For the bookkeeper, if we're talking about from our perspective, like I'm not going to do that shit, right? And if they do that to the client, that's just going to make you look better. So there's two outcomes here, right? Your client doesn't get a bill. Everything goes well with the accountant. You guys are working well. Your life's easier. Their life's easier. The client's life easier. Boom, right? The negative that could happen here is that you reach out in the spirit of collaboration and wanting to help your client, and the accountant's a total dick about it. And then that still just makes you look good, right? Like, so there's really no losing on this.
Yeah. The only losing is in your head, is like in your head, in your social anxiety telling you that this is going to end poorly. The only way it could end poorly is if somebody else ends up looking like an asshole.
That is 1000% true. And I see it everywhere. I just saw it this morning. Somebody on my team shared a screenshot of a group where somebody's accountant wasn't using two-factor authentication and their Gusto account got hacked. And this person, they ended up getting, being a victim of a scam, and the accountant was not apologetic in any way. And it's like, so it really is just the bare minimum, guys. Like you, like knowing, it really is just caring about the client, doing the right thing, apologizing when necessary, going above and beyond, using two-factor authentication as just like a side note. If you're not using two-factor, sign up. But there's no losing here if when you are doing anything in your business, you think, is this in the best interest of my client? If it's in the best interest of your client and you're doing it, then even if it all goes to crap, right? Like if something negative happens, at least you can sleep at night. I'm not saying that everything's going to work out if you do this, but most things will. So don't get freaked out at it.
Today's show is brought to you by Keeper, the one app to run your bookkeeping business. Keeper helps you get faster client responses with your own custom branded QuickBooks integrated client portal. Finally, you can say goodbye to those pesky spreadsheets full of uncategorized transactions. Keeper also helps you catch those embarrassing coding errors before your clients do. And with Keeper, you can generate beautiful custom reports that your clients will absolutely love to read. To find out more, go to keeper.app. That's keeper.app. Mention I Love Bookkeeping to get 20% off your first 3 months. Again, go to keeper.app to find out more. Thank you for listening.
So let's say that you are a bookkeeper or a tax preparer, and you have collaborative efforts with other tax preparers. What are some things that you can do to kind of maintain that relationship and show appreciation?
Well, we just talked about my love language is gift giving. So
yes.
Handwritten thank you notes, holiday treats. If they send you a client, sending them like a little referral thank you gift. Honestly, just checking on them from time to time. Like, if you see something, say you see there's going to be like a new legislation or a new, you see something that reminds you of them, like sending them an email and saying, hey, I saw this, so just want to make sure you saw it. Love to get your thoughts on it. One thing that we like to do with some people is collaborating on content, right? We all need content in the world of social media. And so sharing each other's content, liking their posts on social media, sharing their posts on social media, right? We all need to beat that algorithm. And so if you do that for other people, they're going to do that for you as well. And it is a great source of content that we're all creating, because if you're collaborating with a tax preparer and you don't do taxes, maybe your clients are following your social media, they're still going to need taxes. They're giving you content. And even if you do tax preparation, damn, just give me all of the content. Like, I'll take from anybody's perspective. Again, I don't see it as a competition. I see it as a collaboration. And our entire company's focus right now is education, retention, and collaboration. And so for me, sharing other people's content that is beneficial for my clients hits all three of those.
I love what you just said. Education, retention, and collaboration. So I guess when it comes to having a collaboration with tax preparers, and that's like take a shot every time we say collab, what are some ways and what are some things that you can educate them on from a bookkeeper standpoint?
What we actually need them to do. And what they need us to do, right? That's the biggest thing that I get, is that we'll be categorized. We have our own chart of accounts, right? We have certain processes that we follow. And sometimes there'll be a new tax preparer for a new client that we haven't worked for before. And they go in the books and they just start doing stuff, right? We've all been there, haven't we? Like, all of a sudden you go and you log into QuickBooks Online and there's a new journal entry that makes no sense. So for me, a big part of it is like setting expectations for how we're going to work together, right? This is what we do. And if you need something, if you could please do this before you do this, right? Like, or same with them, like, hey, when you're introducing yourself, is there something specifically that you need from me? This is what I typically like to do. But if you need to see things differently, let me know. That goes for CFOs as well. So it might be a little bit like on steroids with CFOs. If you're a client, you're doing the bookkeeping, you don't offer advisory services, and they work with like a higher level CFO, you're going to get a lot more requests from them, I think, than tax preparers. But a lot of times tax preparers, they want bookkeeping for tax returns. Whereas what we focus on is managerial accounting, like, giving them reports that they can take back to their business with as much detail as possible. And so collaborating with the tax preparer to make sure that they're getting what they need and you're getting what you need at the same time.
I think that's really great information, especially for those who are kind of just venturing off into the tax preparer land. So kind of circling back to my first question, and this just kind of popped in my head, if somebody is starting from square one with their business, how could they go about finding a reputable tax preparer? Because I think that can be a little bit daunting, is finding somebody to work with that can do efficient work. Are there sites you like to use? Do you like to go off of a referral basis? What are some ways that if somebody is listening, starting their business from square one, how can they seek out an efficient tax preparer?
You know that I love Bookkeeper Launch, man. There is just nothing like a Bookkeeper Launch, educated bookkeeper.
Nothing quite like a Bookkeeper Launch.
Nothing quite like it. And the same thing for TaxBiz. And so I always go with referrals within the Bookkeeper Launch community. Referrals from, other bookkeepers that I have collaborated with or I've worked with. What tax preparer do they recommend? I think that for some people that maybe virtual is a little bit scary, or maybe they're a little bit more old school, right? You could just go into town, right? Like you got those old school tax preparers. They've got offices still, like, that's crazy to me. But there's tons of you that are listening that maybe that's you, or maybe you know somebody that does that. We all know somebody that has like, a tax preparer in a little hole in the wall office somewhere in like a strip mall. And just go in and introduce yourself. Referral based, right? If you who does your mom's taxes, who does your dad's taxes, who does your whatever it is, it's just getting out there and referral based. And then worst comes to worst, pick up a phone book, just Google tax prepare plus city and state, and just start working through it. And you're going to find whether you hit it off with somebody or not. And then you can kind of go through that qualification process where it's like, hey, do you know what you're doing? I know what I'm doing. Okay. So it's just starting.
I guess that's that would be like the next worry is finding somebody who's efficient and good at their job. I feel like there's these large companies who shall remain unnamed, with lots of tax preparers who maybe aren't super efficient. And it's because it's more of a quantity versus a quality. And I think that might be, and no shade, this is not me dissing anybody, but I think one thing you need to really, for those of you who are listening, if you're ready to seek out a relationship with a tax preparer, I think one thing that you really need to look for is quality.
I'll give you the first thing to do that. This is the same thing with bookkeepers, right? We all know. Are they detail oriented? And that is such an easy test, right? You know, we talk about it in Bookkeeper Launch, and we talk about it when you're, you know, writing a job description and you put like, you know, bullet number 17, my favorite color is purple, put that in the subject line when you email me. Like, there are little tests that you can do to see if someone's detail oriented. And if they're not detail oriented, they're probably not that good at their job, right? Like, our entire job is about the details as a bookkeeper and as a tax preparer. So for me, if they can't know the details, like if they're, you know, there's those little things, right? Like they miss a meeting, they don't answer your emails. Maybe they answer your email, but they don't actually answer your question. Like, there's things that you can do to qualify a person that gives you a better idea of whether they will be a good tax preparer. And then you can get into the nitty gritty a little bit further. But for me, it's going to be all about being detail oriented.
Yeah. And I think that when you're working with finances, I think being detail oriented is probably like up there with top 3 things you need to be.
Yes. We're going to need,
yeah.
I was going to say, we're going to need a whole episode on tax preparer red flags. Cause I was just thinking, like, I'm starting to go through all the red flags, and I don't want to monopolize this episode with that, but guys, it's coming. How to know if your tax preparer is waving red flags, that's going to be one.
So just to kind of like wrap this conversation up about building relationships with tax preparers, do you find that you like to work with one or many?
Well, I have, of course, an in-house tax department, which is amazing. Shout out to Kazan and Rachel. That being said, when it comes to partners that I work with, I like to have a bench, right? Like, I like to have a big bench of people, because in the tax world, right, there's going to be capacity for anyone, right? For my team on the bookkeeping side, on the tax side, we have a certain amount of capacity. And beyond that capacity, what are we going to do? And everybody has capacity. So if I only have one tax preparer that I work with and they reach capacity, and then I don't have a referral, to me, it's like, ooh, right? Like, I want to have backups and then backups for my backups. And then I think that for some people, you know, they specialize in some things and in others. So maybe you have a tax preparer that just is really great for business taxes. But maybe they don't do personal, or maybe you have one that does business and personal, but they don't represent people in front of the IRS. Maybe they're not an enrolled agent. Maybe they're not a CPA, you know, whatever it might be. Maybe you have a tax preparer that doesn't do tax planning and one that does. There's tons of options here. And for me, I like to have a good bunch of people, and a lot of people that I work with. I will always have my favorites, right? But you need to have backups. Maybe they retire and then you don't know, where to go from there. Or maybe I prefer working with one, but then I can recommend another to somebody else. Maybe another bookkeeper is looking for a tax preparer and I don't want them to have my good one. So maybe I'll refer to them my backup. Just to be a little selfish about it. That's how I feel. So.
Well, we hope you guys have enjoyed this episode of building relationships with tax preparers. That's hard to say. I think I've just said it so many times this episode. I feel like each episode we have a catchphrase or a word that we say a lot, and it's like, take a shot every time we say that. Except you would definitely need medical assistance after that. If you guys have comments, questions, concerns about how you like to build relationships with tax preparers, or you just want to talk to us, or you just want to give us your feedback, please shoot us an email at success@ilovebookkeeping.com. Again, that is success@ilovebookkeeping.com. My name is Hannah Robinson.
And I'm Melissa Honan.
And thank you for listening to the I Love Bookkeeping podcast.
I love bookkeeping. Here's a little shout to all my friends working hard at keeping the books.